The Hound of the Baskervilles is a supernatural story. It's one of my favorites. I've always enjoyed the dark Holmes stories. We're on the moor with the fog and the bog and the sounds. All along in that story, you're thinking it's supernatural. Holmes never does. One of my favorite quotes from Holmes is that there are 50 who can think synthetically for every one who can think analytically. That kind of reasoning is what Holmes is known for, the backwards reasoning. Not building a path to get from here to there with logical steps, but to see the end and reason out the beginning.
Now, if we go beyond facts, use our imagination as the criminal does. Imagine what might have happened and act upon it. As I've been trying to do in this case, we usually find ourselves justified.
Wake Forest started the first year seminar program as a plan for the class of 2000. So when that call for proposals came out for first year seminar, and all it had to include was some reading, some writing, and some analytical thinking, it was immediately obvious to me who that was. I was pleased when the class filled that first year, but what surprised me that it filled in the first 30 minutes. Ready?
Yeah.
In the tobacco experiment, the problem is there's a crime, and at the crime, one of the main pieces of evidence is a pouch of tobacco. What I'll do is I'll give you some, and then you can spread them out on that glass so we'll be sure we have one of each. I guess I doubted that it's possible to know the difference between 140 tobacco samples.
And I put 12, 14, 14, 15.
That first year, I bought one of every type that I could find. 21? Every year when we do the tobacco experiment, I'm tempted to smoke a pipe because the tobacco smells so good. I have favorite flavors. There's a chocolate one that smells really good.
Yep.
Chocolate. I grew up in a family where everyone smoked. I remember the ash all in the house and the cigarette butts in the yard. As a kid, I'd have to go out and pick up the cigarette butts in the grass. So I just never was interested myself. My son David is the recruiting assistant for the graduate school, so he began when he graduated from high school. This one is A, this one is B, and so he began helping me with this Sherlock Holmes class. So he helps me keep straight the code so I know which tobacco sample came from which pouch. Which one don't you remember? That one. What's the name of this one? Smoker-friendly bourbon. That one is I. For each type of tobacco we have, we make a crime scene sample in a plastic bag, like you would find today from a crime scene. And so the idea is that the student is given that plastic bag with the tobacco from the crime scene, must match it with the type of tobacco that would then match up with the perpetrator. Well, maybe we should start. All right, so Holmes can determine the difference between 140 different tobacco samples. What you have in front of you is 21 different tobacco samples. So each of you should find a clear plastic bag with tobacco and a letter. That is a sample that you found at the crime scene. So the first part of the experiment, you're going to make observations about the sample. Tell about its color, tell about its shape, the length maybe of the strands. So spend the first, say 15 minutes observing your tobacco, your Sherlock Holmes, you're writing in your journal. If you take your tobacco out of the pouch, put it on the paper towel so it's easy to clean up. Most of the students that take my class, or many of them, they're interested in forensic science. So they've seen CSI. And there's 21 of them. And that really is a continuation of Sherlock Holmes. If you look under the microscope, you might see some texture.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
Your single tobacco could be one of the 21 that's out on the table. It's not necessarily your table.
No, this isn't. If anything, this looks more
Whiskey's
like
definitely
hers.
not yours.
Yeah, but hers is super.
Mine's like chocolate.
And you're working as a group. The group that gets most right on the first try wins.
Where it's like this is stronger than this.
Yeah,
but
but
really
they smell.
What's the name of yours, Henry? What's the name of that one you have right there?
Bourbon whiskey.
Mine is like
They can measure the lengths of the strands of the tobacco, which aren't the same. The type of tobacco in the mix is not always the same. Sometimes it's all black, sometimes it's all brown, but sometimes it's a mixture. And of course, the flavor or the aroma.
oh yeah, that one smells smoky enough.
So they probably use those three different characteristics. And depending on how good your nose is, you can really narrow it down probably to one of two.
Awful. Bourbon. You think it's the same?
Okay, when everyone in your group has a guess, I'll let you know how you did. Much better up here. And like I said, I didn't believe it could be done, and they do surprisingly well.
I have tea. I'm going with the SV Black Gold.
You got it.
Nice.
So T is SV Black Gold. That's one you can mark off.
Okay, I have the letter M, and I think mine's the SV English mixture.
You got it.
Yes.
English mixture is used, so you can mark that one off. Here.
Prince Albert's soft vanilla for L.
For L, that's correct. English mixture is identified. Prince Albert's soft vanilla is identified, and Super Value Black Gold is identified.
Ray, Captain Black Gold.
It is. K is Captain Black Gold. 3 for 3, Sabrina.
Is ISV bourbon whiskey?
No. So Group B was 2 for 3.
Okay.
It's a cherry, but not Captain Black.
Which one is it?
Prince Albert.
Wait,
Albert
that was
cherry.
literally the one I just showed you.
All right.
Thank you, Professor John.
See you at 5:30 Thursday.
Check my phone. Somebody stop it.
Of the 16 students, I would say 12 or 13 of them get it correct the first time. I don't think that happened this year, but I think in the end, with that experiment, with most of the ones we do, you come away thinking, well, maybe Holmes really could do that.
Okay.
Can I get Twizzler?
I'm on your bus. Okay.
Okay, what we're doing today is one of your journal entries. Take the point of view that the book that you've just read, The Hound of the Baskervilles, is the true story. And what we're going to watch today is Watson's interpretation of that story. So anytime you've heard of the silly Watson, the Watson that's stupid, it's not from the stories, it's from this movie. Each week we have a different theme in the class. One of the weeks is horror. We talk about the most necessary aspects of a horror movie. It has to be dark, there has to be some blood, there has to be some evil force. I mean, I let the students go through this long list of components of a successful horror movie. And so after they do that, I then ask them for the characteristics of the Hound of the Baskervilles, and it turns out to be surprisingly close. So what they do is they're a movie critic. They're watching The Hound of the Baskervilles, and the real story is what's written in the text. What's in the movie they're criticizing, and they're saying how it's differed from the text. But in the end, it's fun. It's a lot of fun just to watch.
Oh, Watson, the needle.